Hey everyone, welcome to FL Teams Live. We've got your NFL Power Rankings after Week 13. As always, or almost always, joining me is Jeremiah Hensley, and as rarely joining us as the king of FL Teams, Isaac Edelman. You fellas ready to run down these awful bottom teams? But before we do that, I want to remind you all about our newest partner, Symbol. They are revolutionizing the world of sports betting and fan engagement by making sports fandom profitable. Symbol is the stock market for sports. You can download the Symbol app, that's SIMBULL, spelled out below, and use the code FLTEAMS to receive a free team stock valued up to $150 upon signing up. All right, gents, let's reveal the bottom half of the FL Teams power rankings. We'll start with number 32, unanimous yet again. They're dominating the number 32 spot. It's the Houston Texans. We might just want to memorialize that spot for them this year. Number 31, also unanimous on all the ballots, the Denver Broncos. Coming in at number 30, the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Number 29, the Chicago Bears, who continue to be owned by Aaron Rodgers. Number 28, the Carolina Panthers. Number 27, the Indianapolis Colts. Number 26, the Arizona Cardinals. Number 25, the New Orleans Saints, who continue to be owned by themselves. Number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 23, the Atlanta Falcons. Number 22, the surging, with TJ Watt's return, Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 21, the don't need to score an offensive touchdown, Cleveland Browns. Number 20, the Green Bay Packers. Number 19, falling after a blowout victory, the Detroit Lions. Number 18, the Tampa Bay Bucs. And number 17, the really surging, kind of crazy surging Las Vegas Raiders. So we've got two Florida teams here in the bottom half. The Jaguars actually moved up a couple spots despite being blown out by the Lions. The Lions moved down a couple spots. That's how, when you're compiling ballots, that's how these things can come together sometimes. You'll see when we go to number 16, they just lost the number 17. It's just the way the ballots add up. Let's start with the Jaguars since they are on the bottom, and they have been. I guess the biggest news is Trevor Lawrence not seriously injured after leaving the game for a little bit with what looked a little bit scary. But they got outclassed, it seemed, by a team that's still not really in the upper echelon of the NFL. A rough go for those young Jaguars.
Man, Trevor Lawrence's legs aren't supposed to have been like that. That looked really, really bad. So him coming back out of that, I think that's the best thing that could happen for the Jags. What a yo-yo, right? Just they've been the epitome of a roller coaster. You see the talent spark through every now and then. They just can't find it consistently. I'm not going to hold the Lions' loss against them, though, man. The Lions are surging in their own right? I mean, 4 out of their last 5, and the only loss in those 5 coming to Buffalo on Thanksgiving by 3. And they were in that game the whole way. So, I mean, the Jags, you're playing for next year at this point, of course. And, I don't see anything, what was once promising and hopeful looks like it's plateaued.
Yeah. And let's move to the Bucs, and let's use our time to talk about their matchup, because you guys just saw San Francisco. That's who the Bucs play this upcoming week. Isaac, you guys got a real close look at Mr. Irrelevant playing quarterback for the 49ers. You also got a good look at that 49ers defense. We'll talk about the Dolphins more in the top half of the rankings where the winners go. But let's talk about the Bucs, where I guess they're 500. But Well, what are you looking at at them? Can they steal this game from the 49ers if, Purdy maybe is a little unstable?
Well, I think that, first of all, this is a very interesting quarterback matchup, Tom Brady versus Purdy. But because Purdy's going up against Tom Brady, I think that will affect how he plays. That might get him excited. The fact that he could say he was drafted with the last pick in the 2022 NFL draft and he beat Tom Brady, right? Any quarterback who beats Tom Brady has bragging rights, but Mr. Irrelevant, that is a lot of bragging rights, but he could also be nervous. Now, I will say this. The Buccaneers are not putting up enough points, and that's against weaker defenses than the 49ers. The 49ers defense is so good that I think in order for the Bucs to win this game, and I don't think it's going to happen, their defense needs to put up some points, and it is possible. It's just unlikely. It's possible because you got a rookie quarterback, Purdy, who could throw pick sixes or fumbles or whatever. But again, Tom Brady, I mean, he's the GOAT, so if he has a 4-touchdown performance, we won't question it. But just based on the trend of things and now facing a tougher defense than usual, it just seems like the Bucs might fall back again in the rankings.
Yeah, they've got the Bengals the following week after that. Jeremiah, speaking of the Niners defense, as Isaac said, weaker defenses than the Niners, meaning the other 31 teams in the league, frankly. Yeah. Jeremiah, their defense strangling and going up against the Bucs offense that, aside from when defenses seem to turtle up in the last couple minutes, we've seen it with the Rams. We've seen it with the Saints. The Bucs offense can't seem to move the ball at all. What did you see from those Niners?
The Bucs just look completely out of sync, right? I mean, nobody on the team's on the same page. And that's so unusual for a Tom Brady-led offense. The 49ers defense is going to bring heat. They're going to bring pressure. Brady gets uncomfortable with that. I mean, I do think that Tampa's offensive line will probably hold up a little better than Miami did last week. When I look at guys like Brock Purdy, though, I mean, when you talk about being in the right situation, San Francisco is an offense that's built for a quarterback to just not make mistakes, right? They were worse when they had a guy like Trey Lance. When Trey Lance took chances and tried to get outside the box, that hurt them, right? They've got playmakers, but if you've got somebody who just plays within it, and it's like the old Trent Dilfer adage, right? When you had the Baltimore Ravens defense, just don't turn the ball over. Throw the screens to Debo, get the ball running, just keep plugging it along and let your defense set up. You're going to win the field position. So a guy like Brock Purdy fits in nicely here. I don't know. I do think that Tampa will do a better job of getting pressure, though. That's one thing that Miami failed to do is we didn't make him uncomfortable at all. I mean, he felt like he had all day in the pocket. So, it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Very low scoring.
Yeah, but when it comes down to that, it's in San Francisco, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Tampa, unless something just clicks all the way around, I don't see Tampa being able to put up enough points to win that game.
Now, but by the way, before we move to the top half, Jeff, I do want to bring up the fact that because I haven't came on the Power Ranking show in a while, so I do want to mention that I'm still mind blown that the Rams and Broncos are so low on this list because, I mean, I wasn't that high in the Rams, but obviously you had them top 10, top 5. But the Broncos, you could go back to a ton of FL Teams live shows where we previewed the upcoming season. We did preseason Power Rankings. I was so high on the Broncos. I had them making the Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys remember that. Obviously, I didn't expect Russell Wilson to be this bad, but I expected the Broncos defense to be this good. The defense is literally keeping the Broncos in these games, yet the Broncos can't win. Obviously, you guys have probably seen that stat where if the Broncos scored 18 points per game on offense, they'd be having a winning record. It's just crazy that the Broncos defense is actually doing its job exactly as I expected it to, but their problem is Russell Wilson, and that was least expected.
Well, look, how could you expect it? At the beginning of the year, we would have looked at Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, and I bet most people did, is that's one of the top running back tandems in the league.
Yes.
Right? Javonte gets hurt. He's gone. Melvin Gordon gets cut. Like, who would have thought, right? This is a duo that you had at the upper echelon. One injury, one gets cut. There's no running game behind it. You know, these aren't the days of being able to plug in the Phillip Lindsays and get 1,000 yards. It's definitely, that's interesting. Now, talk about interesting with the Rams. You've got Stafford now going on the IR, right? So he's basically done for the year. And the only team in the NFL who put a claim on our man Baker were the LA Rams. So now Baker Mayfield, there's still a chance that he gets one more shot this year in the NFL. And that's a storyline to me. We can say Russell Wilson, but we know Russell Wilson will have a job next year. I don't know. Baker Mayfield, how the mighty have fallen, man. I mean, I know it was questionable, but then rising up, but to go from where you've been in this league to, poster boy on commercials to out of the league in a couple of years, that's a real possibility.
And he's going to look bad again because the Rams, I mean, unless
They've
Cooper
got
Kupp,
nothing going.
I don't think Cooper Kupp's going to play that hard for Baker, believe me.
Well,
The Rams shouldn't let Cooper Kupp see the field again.
No, and Allen Robinson's already banged up too. I mean, it should be a steady diet of Cam Akers the rest of the way, him and Kyron Williams, and see what happens. But
yeah, Baker's not going to look good. So
no,
he'll be a free agent after the season, and we'll see what team brings him in to back up whoever they've got.
Indianapolis always needs a quarterback.
Yeah, so do the Saints. Top 16, let's hit it. Number 16, just barely hanging on over the team they lost to, the Los Angeles Chargers. Number 15, the New England Patriots. Number 14, the Washington Commanders. Appropriately, the team they tied with. Number 13, the New York Giants. Number 12, the New York Jets, who really jets things up this week. Number 11, the Seattle Seahawks, who barely squeaked by against those awful Rams. Number 10, the Tennessee Titans. Number 9, the Baltimore Ravens. We'll see how long they're without Lamar Jackson. Number 8, the Miami Dolphins. Number 7, the San Francisco 49ers. Number 6, the Minnesota Vikings. And number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals after a big win over number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. Number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. I will say, for sake of clarity, the tiebreaker between number 2 and 3 was a coin toss. That's how close. I mean, they were literally tied. We have 3 tiebreakers to break ties. This went to the 4th, which is a coin toss. So Cowboys and Bills tied at second. We don't do ties. We're not Washington and New York. Let's obviously we've got the thing on the screen that tells us who we're talking about. The Dolphins fall to number 8. I will say I think the Niners only being at 7 is probably because their quarterback's out for the season. I know I would have had them a couple spots higher on my ballot personally, but I kept them a little, Jimmy G over Brock Purdy, just a little edge. But let's talk about the Dolphins. I messaged you guys Sunday right after the game and said, is Teron Armstead the most valuable player on the team? That was my insight into the game. But Jeremiah, why don't you lead us off and talk about your Dolphins, Mr. Fins?
100%, man. I mean, Teron Armstead holding down that line. I mean, we saw this a lot last year with Tua. It led to a lot of him and Flores in the falling out, that when there was pressure, things got a little uncomfortable. I'm loving Tua. I appreciate, I'm on board with QB1, but I've said, and you guys have seen it through on Sunday chats or wherever it may be, that even when he's had time, he's not been as accurate as it looks, right? I mean, the numbers are giving him an accuracy, but I mean, there's a lot of balls that are thrown high, a little behind, just missing some spots. And this really, really caught up on Sunday. And San Francisco's the best defense in the league. And you're playing without your top offensive line, without your 2 starting tackles, basically, right? And for whatever reason, we moved away from running the ball. I think Mike McDaniel got a little bit, maybe a little fancy with himself, trying to overthink this thing in the way that he was going through it. Yeah, that defense, there's something weird about me, though, and I've said it over and over. Anything we've talked about the 49ers, I still don't buy the 49ers. I don't get it. There's just something about that team that doesn't resonate with me or thinks that they're that good. I really don't. And this coming, they just shellacked us. I got you. But there's something I just don't. That defense is just really, really solid, and Tua's going to have to improve. I like that the Dolphins stayed out west. We're playing the Chargers this week on Sunday night. I like that they didn't travel back home, especially after the loss. I think this is an opportunity near the end of the season where you spend time together in a game where you got exposed and you spend extra time in the room. You spend extra time together. You build toward that. Obviously, the Dolphins felt like that
Yeah.
Isaac, I think the internet gods want you to take over.
Yeah.
Isaac, as leader of the Tua fan club.
No, I was gonna say, thank you, Jeff. I was gonna say that I don't think anyone wants to hear his further thoughts on the Dolphins. He was being too respectful. Too respectful. Honestly, look, I'm a Dolphin fan exactly like Jeremiah, but obviously we'll let you finish. Sorry. We were just saying that the internet gods thought you were being too respectful for the Dolphins.
It may have been. No, but I was just going to say, look, they obviously went out and signed Eric Fisher. So we know we've got to get help on the offensive line. And, let's see what happens, man. It's going to see how we respond. We've seen it too many times, Isaac. You and me as Dolphin fans, we're in this thing to the last quarter of the season and the wheels fall off. We're in it with winning in and you're in at the end and you don't get there. So, I've seen this movie before. I'm just hoping for a plot twist.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I really think that the wheels can fall off quicker than usual. You may see them be outside of the top 10 next week and the week after. Chargers, then Bills, both on the road, both primetime. I don't know. If the Dolphins lose both of those games, I feel like primetime games have more value as well. The Dolphins are easily going to fall out of the top 10 if they lose one or two out of the games. I don't know. But it comes down to this. Again, why are things so complicated for me as a Dolphin fan? I should enjoy watching my team. It's fine. We lose. Yes, fine. But it's just up and down. It shouldn't be up and down. Either be down or up. Like, fine. The best teams in the NFL are going to lose games. Last year, the Bills lost to the Jaguars. No one really changed their thoughts on the Bills. Everyone knew they were still a very talented team. However, the Dolphins are so shaky. Yes, there's injuries on the O-line. But what if the Dolphins make the playoffs and in the first round there's an injury? They're not going to win the game, and it's going to be a known fact. Here's where I stand. I am not the biggest Tua fan, right? But I've gained so much confidence in him these last few weeks. But after what I saw last week, it's the most recent game in my memory, right? So it's on the top of my head. I think Tua is not the best again. So I don't know. It's just complicated. It shouldn't be, right? I mean, either your team is bad or good or a fringe playoff team. With the Dolphins, they're all three, I feel like. I don't know. You just never know what Dolphins team you're getting.
You sum that up beautifully because you're right. I mean, look, the Bills have lost a couple of games. The Chiefs lose a couple of games. They lose to the Bengals, and you're like, well, they're still the Chiefs.
Exactly.
There's no, they're still the Dolphins. They're still the Dolphins means we don't know what the hell they are.
Exactly.
And that is just unbelievable. I mean, every week you win and you go way up and then you go way down and it's somewhere in between. Who knows? But the next 2 weeks are going to be telling. We talked about it before. This 3-game road trip was going to give us that identity, good or bad. So I'm buckled in, man. I think we can beat the Chargers, though. I really do. I think we're better than the Chargers, especially if our boys Armstead's back and Eric Fisher acclimates quickly. I think the line gets better, and hopefully, I saw that Jeff Wilson bounce back. Yeah. We just stopped running the ball again last week, which is, I mean, I get it. It's a tough defense, but even against the toughest defenses, you can't just abandon the run. Mostert had 7 carries, and that was the most on the team.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you before we move on, Jeremiah. Obviously, the Dolphins, and I don't want to predict this, but I'm just asking you if this happens, right? Just possibility. Mm-hmm. If the Dolphins lose to the Chargers and then they lose to the Bills, we aren't just going to falter in terms of our playoff chances because we're a wild card right now, but in terms of these rankings, I mean, the Dolphins are facing tough teams, but how far would you drop them? Obviously, it depends on the performance. But basically what I'm asking is, we already beat the Ravens. We already beat the Bills earlier in the season, but these losses are obviously the most recent in memory, right? And they're also towards the end of the season, so the value has to be higher. Basically, my question for you, I don't want to make it too complicated, is how much do these two upcoming games on the road mean for the Dolphins in terms of the power rankings? Obviously, we know it means a lot towards the playoffs chances.
Everything.
Obviously. Yes.
Everything. We need a statement win, right? Right now, the two statement wins that we can talk about this year were in week 2 and 3. It was a long time ago, right? We've won games in between then, but we've left teams in it that shouldn't have been, with Chicago, with Detroit, right? We beat Cleveland pretty good. We beat Houston pretty good. Okay, right? But we haven't had another statement win. And the Chargers or the Bills, one of these two games, especially on prime time, you got to come away with at least one victory. And it's going to tell you what you need to know about the team. If you lose both of these, we're in the second half of this. We're in the lower half. I mean, it's completely exposed to what it is. It's one thing to beat up on bad teams, Giants, right? It's another to play with the big boys.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. But again, if you're a Dolphin fan, you don't just want to see your team win. You want to see them win handily. What happened the last time we were on FL Teams Live? Steelers, Dolphins. We won, but a fan like me, like if you guys are watching, I was so upset. You shouldn't be that upset after a win on primetime football. The Dolphins don't just need a win. They need to win in style. This can't be one of those iffy performances again where you don't know where the Dolphins stand. Speaking of that, we will have an FL Teams Live this Sunday night. I do want to promote that. We will get you the exact timing and graphics. We'll promote it on Twitter. But yeah, just stay tuned. We will be live during the Chargers-Dolphins game this Sunday night.
Yes. And, this game, to me, seems like a must-win for the Dolphins because, relying on beating Buffalo doesn't seem like a wise plan.
In the cold.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Just both of you, honestly, give me a one-word answer. One word. The Dolphins, as you see them right now, do you see them going into Buffalo, Kansas City, or Cincinnati in the playoffs? And do you actually see them winning that game? Not can they win if things go right. Do you think they go into those three teams that are experience the playoffs, all cold weather places in the playoff time? Can the Dolphins realistically go in there and win a playoff game?
I'll start. I'll give you a 2-word answer. Absolutely not.
No, yes. Cincinnati, we could win. We could win. Buffalo and Kansas City, no way. Not anywhere near ready for that.
No way.
I don't know.
Cincinnati defense just would give us enough time to come back.
I agree with what you're saying, Jeff. Yeah, I disagree. All three. It's not just cold, but again, I just feel like it's not like, when you're in the playoffs, you're going to have a different mentality. So is the other team. Yeah. And it comes down to this. These teams are going to blitz the heck out of Tua. They're not going to stop Tyreek Hill, but all these three teams you mentioned could have high-octane offenses. Jamar Chase, McCall Hardman, Juju, and, of course, with the Bills, Stephon Diggs. It just seems like the Dolphins have the weapons, but so do these other teams, and nothing tells me that the Dolphins could play smarter football than these other three teams.
I think the Bengals, a blessing in disguise, as weird as this sounds, losing Jamar Chase, who I think they were a little too reliant on earlier this year, losing him for a stretch, I think really forced them. And then losing Joe Mixon for a couple weeks, I think that really forced them to realize, hey, we've got Pirine, Higgins, Boyd, Hurst. My boy Mitchell Wilcox had a big first down catch in the game against Kansas City. You got a lot of other talent. It doesn't just need to be the Jamar Chase show. I think that may have been a blessing in disguise to kind of get that team to realize, hey, we got to be able to run the ball. We got all these other talented receivers we can throw the ball to.
So Jeremiah,
and we also got Chase.
So Jeremiah, maybe we needed Hill or Waddle to get injured to get the run game going. Very good, Jeff. I really liked what you just said. because I feel like the Dolphins needed that. Very good. I liked what you just said, Jeff. Amazing.
Yeah, sometimes
So
even I
let's
can
jump
come up.
on. Let's jump on your Bengals on this one, right? Because if we look ahead to next week, I think that is one of the bigger games to me. Is Cleveland going into Cincinnati?
Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath.
You think?
Oh, I would.
Watson's going to get rid of the. You don't think Watson will get rid of some of the rust a little bit?
Oh God, no. I think the Browns.
Awful.
I mean, I don't think the Browns really had a shot to make the playoffs. But if they did, they made a mistake going back to Watson. He didn't look bad. He looked like the worst quarterback ever to step foot on. He was the worst quarterback on the field. That included Kyle Allen. No, they got lucky that they were playing the Texans, or they would have gotten blown the hell out in that game. They had 2 defensive touchdowns and a punt return.
Yeah.
So Sean Watson did nothing good in that game at all. No, he's going to be rusty. That's what it's basically like an extended preseason for him to knock off the rust. Unless the Bengals completely overlook them, I think they win by 2-3 scores easily.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you this. The Colts might have their new quarterback, bring back former Colt. Sorry, did I say the Bills? Did I say the Bills? No, I said the Colts. Jacoby Brissett should go back to the Colts because he's better. He's better than the last time he was with them. Oh, man.
So, hey, here's one quick one, and I know we'll go over these risers and fallers, right? But I was just happening to look down the lines quickly. I usually try to do it on Wednesday. Speaking of the lines, Detroit is a 2.5-point favorite at home against Minnesota.
Hey, that's the game I wanted to talk about, man.
Go ahead.
I'm picking the Lions to win that game. Minnesota. I think they showed on the screen after they somehow survived the Jets, who completely outplayed them. The Jets just could not punch that ball, except for one time, could not get across that damn goal line. Even when they did, the refs tried to keep them out, but they overturned it. But I felt terrible watching that, because the Jets really, God, they should have won that game. But that's been every game I've watched the Vikings play all season is, God, they should have lost that game. They did it earlier this season against the Lions. They did it in London against the Saints. They did it this week, obviously, against the Jets, where you watch and you say, well, the better team didn't win this game. But the Vikings have the second best record in the NFL. So they got a lucky rabbit's foot or something. I think Detroit's a better team than them. The way they're playing right now is scary on offense, and the defense has finally started to gel and grow together. There's a lot of young guys on that defense. So no, that was the game I had circled. Yeah. I'm picking Detroit to upset them.
I'll say this
team to win.
I mean, Jeff, your prediction is not wrong, but the line is wrong. I think that bettors deserve to make money, like you, Jeff. To bet on the Lions. What if the Lions only win by 1 point? That sucks.
Hey, come on. Jared Goff's making me eat my words this year at home, especially. Jared Goff looks like a quarterback, man. He looks like a guy in the top, 5 in at home production. Jared Goff has had a heck of a year. I think that is going to be an absolute game to watch, man. That one's going to be very interesting.
Yeah,
a lot of good games though.
Yeah, that was one I had highlighted. Isaac, is there anything you see from week 14 that kind of pops off to you? I've got another couple, or Jeremiah might, if you don't.
No, I do have something to discuss. Again, it's gonna sound stupid, but I really think that the Giants, if they upset the Eagles this week, and I think it's the Giants are at home. If the Giants upset the Eagles this week, I'm gonna be looking at the game because it is a possibility. It's going to really make people question, including ourselves, for the next power ranking show. Are the Eagles legitimate? Right? I didn't have the Eagles at number 1. A lot of people do at the power rankings. If the Giants beat the Eagles, we are going to be shaking our heads again wondering, where do we put these teams on the power rankings? So I hope you like that pick, because the Giants could very well upset the Eagles. It's getting towards the back end of the season. It's the last time the Giants will face the Eagles this season. And the Giants could play spoiler and pick up a huge win over the Eagles. Look, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown went off last week against their former team, the Titans. But I don't know. I feel like the Eagles could be a bit sleepy this week. I don't know. I think Daniel Jones has played well enough this year to beat the Eagles. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think the Eagles need to get back to Saquon Barkley. I mean, their offense has lost a little bit there. But yeah, I could see the Eagles kind of sleeping on that. It's a division game too, late in the season, on the road.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's important for the Giants because they're not far ahead in that playoff race at this point. The Eagles still have a little bit of cushion, in the division. And I don't think any of us think the Eagles are some sort of dominant force. Arguably their best game was this past week against Tennessee, I would say. But I don't think I was reluctant to put them number one, but only because they have one loss and the other teams I think are maybe better than them. They have more. They have 3. So it's hard for me to figure out how much I want to penalize them. So no, I could see that. I think the Giants, I think this is something we kind of referred to a few times as they built up that record on a really weak schedule, is we'll see how they do when they start playing even middle of the pack teams like Washington. We'll see. It's an interesting game because I don't think any game Philadelphia's in is a sure thing. And that tells you a lot about where this season is, that 13 weeks in, they're number one on our power rankings, and we're not sure.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's why I personally put them at 3, because I just don't think they're better or a greater force than the Bills or Chiefs. And that could change the rest of the way, but these are division games late in the season, like you said, Jeremiah. I think we should be watching this Eagles-Giants game this week. Spoiler alert. It's actually not spoiler. The spoiler alert is a term that's used for a team that's really not playing for anything, and they just spoil the better team's hopes or whatever. The Giants need to win, like you said, Jeff, to make the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones could very well have his best game of the season. He kind of needs to, and it's at home. So, yeah.
Look, when it comes to me on these games for next week, no secret, man. Sports to me is about stories. It's storylines. It's how everything comes together. The Bucs and the Niners, I think, is just going to tell a great story for the rest of the NFL season next week. Again, 2 out of the last 3 games, the Bucs have hung around at the end. They won on fourth quarter comebacks with Brady. The Niners get a decisive win, but lose their quarterback. So now you've got the rookie quarterback stepping in, the team that's led by the old GOAT, the veteran. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. If the Bucs win that game, all of a sudden they're 7-6, right? And only a game worse than the 49ers. And they're easily already winning their division. So, you've got to start talking about, where do the Bucs really play into this thing? Is it going to be that they never gel? Maybe. But, you've got to, if it ever comes together, like we saw Cincinnati come together last week. Cincinnati came together against Kansas City. If that Bucs team, and I know I just keep saying it over and over again, but if it ever gels through, man, there's a lot of talent there. Julio Jones, the tank doesn't look empty, right? He made a couple of big grabs. Playoff Lenny. So I'm interested to see what happens in that game.
I think that's a horrible take, Jeremiah. The Bucs are trash. Their offense is washed. I don't know how many years Tom Brady needs to play and be middle of the pack like he is this year. I mean, he was missing throws. So, he has been missing throws down the field this year consistently. He has, I think, about as many touchdown passes as Andy Dalton, who's played fewer games than him. He's 16th in the NFL in passer rating. He's a mediocre quarterback. I get all, the whole GOAT thing. If he plays another 7 years and he's ranked number 32 every year at quarterback, Are we still going to keep calling him the GOAT? I mean, he's turning into a GOAT because he can't lead an offense like a farm animal couldn't lead an offense down the field. They're trash. They'll be lucky to score, except the defense for the Bucs maybe has a chance to put something on the scoreboard or give them such a short field that maybe they'll just kick a field goal or get lucky.
Chances are you're spot on with that. It is so weird. Like I told you, this is a game for me of two teams that I have preconceived notions of. I can't respect the Niners, and I have too much respect for the Bucs. And it's just a weird. My head is there. I don't know. It's illogical on all parts.
You two got abused by Tom Brady for 20 years. That's why you guys see old Tom Brady every time you see him. He's not that guy. He's just not. It's not there. You know. I know a couple of terrible teams gifted him the ball and bad defensive performances down the stretch. I wasn't seeing special throws by Tom Brady. Yeah, I was seeing short little passes that were given up by prevent defenses in both of those games, the Rams and the Saints. I don't see any magic. I see bad coaching against them. Teams that shut him down for 56 minutes of a game, changing their strategy down the stretch and giving them these little things and not defending it. So I think they're trash. And they're lucky that they're 6-6. They should have lost the game on Monday night. They should lose, but again, they get lucky. Not, who knows what you're going to get with a rookie quarterback.
Hey, so let me toss one other thing to you. We saw probably the most dominant performance that we've seen out of this team all year. Seems like it happens again, though, if you run the cycle. The Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys absolutely looked beyond dominant in their win. But is it the same old Cowboys that
they play the Texans this week, don't they?
No, this week, they got the Texans. So, I mean, they're going to roll. Right. But I'm just saying.
I could play quarterback for Dallas.
Is this the Cowboys team that could put it together? I mean, are they the one that can actually get to the
Can I say this, though? I think I know from watching TV that most of the analysts did not watch the Cowboys game. Because in the fourth quarter of that game, it was 21-19. I was watching it with a couple friends saying, man, this could be a really weird upset. And then Matt Ryan turned into Falcons Matt Ryan and they became a turnover factory. And that's what led to a blowout score. Dallas didn't look all that impressive for 3 quarters of that game. So mostly, I mean, the defense actually gave up more than I thought they would, but mostly their offense has some trouble getting traction. I think they're a very good team, but their offense needs to start, churning a little bit earlier in the game because you can't rely on your opponent just giving you the ball play after play after play. Right. I know Dallas's defense had it, but I mean, I think it was 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter. That's
Matt
bad.
Ryan
even for
completely bad.
Whew, that went bad. I do one last game before we sign off. I feel like it's almost turned into a must-win, but there's almost no chance they win. The New York Jets going into Buffalo. I mean, what a tough run they have at Minnesota and Buffalo. They beat Buffalo the first time with Zach Wilson.
I'll tell you this. If the NFL schedule makers want to make the NFL exciting, the Jets will win this game because they will give Jet fans relieved hope. Right? It's Mike White again, obviously, right?
Yep.
And the Bills, I think if the Jets win this week, the Jets are first in the division. Am I right?
No.
I think the Dolphins will be in first.
Well, if the Dolphins.
Assuming the Dolphins win.
No. The Bills would still be there. Bills only have 3 losses.
Well, if they lose to the Jets.
No, if they lose to the Jets, they'll have 4, but everybody else is still holding the 5.
Okay.
Well, Dolphins, right.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins.
Right. Dolphins.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, the Jets just have 1 more extra loss.
Yeah, the Jets with the wild card, though. That's still they're hanging on by this much.
You know how some people say, the NFL schedule makers want to make, the refs want to make, watching the NFL more exciting than it actually in reality is, the Jets would win this week because it's not just going to add more to the AFC East, fight for the division, but again, it's going to make people question the Bills and their force. But like you said earlier, Jeremiah, if the Bills or Chiefs lose, we still know they're a force. But if the Dolphins lose, we don't know what's going on.
Look, here's the thing. The Jets, last year, the Patriots showed us how to go into Buffalo late in the season and win. You run the ball. You run the ball, you run the ball, you run the ball. Even if it's like a high school offense, you run the ball. Like what? I mean, they threw 5 passes in that game last year. So the Jets, unfortunately, unless Michael Carter's back, I think what's been really disappointing is James Robinson. I really thought James Robinson was going to make an impact with the Jets. And he was a healthy scratch for a couple of games. Yeah. And then last week with no Michael Carter, he only carried the ball 4 times, losing carries to Zonovan Knight. So, if you're going to do this for the Jets, you're not going to be able to do it with Mike White's hands. Mike White's an exciting guy. They've got playmakers on the offense, but in Buffalo, you've got to keep Josh Allen and the Bills off the field. And you got to run the ball. So I don't know if Michael Carter will be back or not. If he is, that could be a very interesting game.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're willing to commit to the run game.
Yeah.
It's a big if in the NFL nowadays. Just ask Mike McDaniel.
So we'll see. And you know what? We did touch on it a little bit, but it does go without saying. A really big game next week is the Dolphins and the Chargers, right? That is a big game this late in the season. Both teams vying for playoff spots. Both in, the records are close to each other, just vying for those spots underneath and to see where you're going to be. It's a really big game.
It's such a big game that FL Teams, your crew, will be with you live to help broadcast that game. So Stay tuned.
And by the way, I'm surprised. We need to promote this too, Jeremiah. What's happening, man? It's the moment I've been waiting for. The Dolphins should have drafted Justin Herbert.
I don't agree with that anymore.
We're going to see it Sunday night.
Yeah.
End of story.
Hey, right now, Tua's 1-0 versus Herbert, by the way.
Well, we'll see it next year when Justin Herbert's being coached by Sean Payton. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Hey, but in all seriousness, guys, tune in this Sunday night. The game is not just going to be fun. Our stream's not just going to be entertaining, but you will see a lot of drama. Hopefully not. I mean, hopefully the Dolphins just blow away with it from the start. But once Tua starts getting shaky, you will see me, more than the average person, start going crazy. Jeff, as usual, will just sit here and laugh because he's a Saint fan and he has nothing to do with Tua. And, of course, Jeremiah will still stick up for his boy Tua, as he should.
Look, I'll tell you, this is what drew me to FL Teams out of all things sports, man. Here's the deal. I think we're all very intelligent, but the group of guys at FL Teams are the most realistic, right? We can pick apart our own teams, right? Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of bias here or there, but we have no problem calling it as we see it. Yeah. And to me, there's nothing more frustrating in the world of fandom than a guy who wears the glasses that just can't see anything, right? I'm looking at you, Steeler fans, every one of you. But it really is. So it's a lot of fun to hear it break down that way, because it's not just kissing ass one way or the other. We're not going Collinsworth and bashing it or not doing the other and sucking up. It's a nice take. Good times watching along. Had a blast against the Steelers. So I'm looking forward to doing it again on Sunday.
We'll try to get some good guests in here for you guys. Obviously, live reactions, live play-by-play. Hopefully my TV isn't 30 seconds ahead like last time. The getaway, Jeff, you're I think you're the closest to the Los Angeles now. So you should.
The feed might be coming to you sooner than everybody else, Jeff.
Yeah, I'll have a 3-second advantage. I'll just pause my TV and we'll
which I couldn't do.
Roll it together.
All right, everyone. Make sure you're subscribed to FL Teams on YouTube. You follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
Not Snapchat.
Not Snapchat?
No.
Okay. I didn't say Snapchat.
Last week you did. I remember. I was laughing.
Oh yeah, I just MySpace, every place.
Add us on
Um,
FaceTime.
FaceTime. Add us in the App Store. We don't have an app, not yet, not
Maybe.
yet. Ooh. Yeah, but make sure you're following, subscribe, so that you know when to tune in and where to tune in to that fun broadcast Sunday night. So for Jeremiah Hensley, Isaac Edelman, I am Jeff Macolino signing off. We'll see you all Sunday.
Happy football.